Today we're going to talk about what happens when you divide trig functions. There's two ways to explain this lesson. We can call it quotient identities or reciprocal identities, depending on what we're looking at. So first I want to ask the question, what happens when you take 1 and divide by cosecant of x? Now the reason why we would call this a reciprocal is because we're putting cosecant of x under 1, so therefore it's the reciprocal. You can also call it quotient because it's a fraction. Okay, but sometimes we differentiate quotient from reciprocal when we're talking about identities, so we're just going to call this a reciprocal identity. So the question is, how do you simplify 1 over cosecant of x? What can you do? Well, recall that a trig function is nothing more than a ratio, so we're going to convert this cosecant of x to that ratio for the first step. Now, what is cosecant of x? Cosecant of x is nothing more than hypotenuse over opposite. That is its ratio, that is its definition that we learned when we first started learning trig. So cosecant of x of theta is going to be replaced with hypotenuse over opposite for the first step in our proof. Next, in our proof, we realize that when you divide by a fraction, you multiply by its reciprocal. So this becomes 1 times o over h. So what you're doing in this step is you're just flipping the h and the o and multiplying that. And if you flip h and o, you get o and h. So now we have 1 over cosecant of theta is equal to 1 times o over h. By the way, I switched from x to theta. It doesn't matter. Okay, we both know that they just mean a variable that's an angle. Okay, so next we have 1 times o over h. So how do we simplify that? Well, 1 times o is just o, right? So now we have o over h. Now let's remember, what does o and h stand for? O represents opposite, h represents hypotenuse. Well, if you recall, what is opposite over hypotenuse? Going back to definitions, you can remember that opposite over hypotenuse is sine. So therefore, the final answer for 1 over cosecant of theta is equal to sine of theta. So it's actually very simple. You just plug in the ratio and you simplify. And this proves that 1 over cosecant of theta is equal to sine of theta. And that's the easiest and best way to simplify it, and you're going to see the rest of the proofs are going to work much similar to this one.